The champagne flute slipped from Maya's trembling fingers, crystal fragments scattering across the marble floor like her shattered dreams. The sound echoed through the penthouse suite, but it was nothing compared to the thunderous beating of her heart as she stared at the massive television screen. There he was. David. Her David. Or rather, the man who used to be hers. And here's the happy couple at their engagement party, the entertainment reporter's voice drilled into Maya's skull. Tech mogul David Adebayo and supermodel Sarah Chen, Maya Okafor's former best friend, announced their wedding date. Maya's knees buckled. The world tilted sideways as she watched her ex-boyfriend of 3 years slip a diamond ring the size of a small country onto the finger of the woman who had been her maid of honor at her sister's wedding. The woman who had held her hair back when she was sick. The woman who had promised to be her bridesmaid when Maya and David finally got engaged. The woman who had apparently been sleeping with her boyfriend behind her back. Maya, darling, are you watching? Her phone buzzed with a text from her manager, Rebecca. Emergency meeting. Now. Come to the office immediately. Maya's hand shook as she typed back, on my way. But first, she needed to breathe. She needed to think. She needed to understand how her entire life had crumbled in the span of a 15-minute news segment. Welcome back to African Love Chronicles, your favorite place for stories soaked in passion and soul-deep romance. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to tell us your favorite part of the story. Your support keeps these love tales flowing strong. Thanks for always supporting us. Now, grab your popcorn and let's dive in. Maya Okafor had always been the girl with the plan. At 26, she had conquered the modeling world with her striking features, high cheekbones that could cut glass, eyes like warm honey, and skin that seemed to glow from within. Born in a small town to a schoolteacher mother and a mechanic father, she had clawed her way to the top of the fashion industry through sheer determination and an iron will. But tonight, that iron will felt more like rusted metal, ready to snap under pressure. She threw on a black dress appropriate, she thought bitterly, since she was apparently attending the funeral of her own life and drove through the city streets in a daze. The neon lights blurred past her windows like tears she refused to shed. Rebecca's office building loomed ahead, all glass and steel reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers. Maya had signed her first major contract in this building. She had celebrated magazine covers and campaign wins within these walls. Tonight, she had a feeling she was walking into her professional execution. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like a journey to the gallows. Each floor that passed brought a new wave of nausea. By the time the doors opened, Maya was holding her breath. Rebecca sat behind her desk, but she wasn't alone. 3 men in expensive suits flanked her, their faces grim. Maya recognized one of them, Marcus Wellington, the head of Prestige Models, the agency that had made her a star. Maya, Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. Sit down, sweetheart. I'm fine standing, Maya replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Marcus cleared his throat. Miss Okafor, I'm afraid we have a situation. The Delaney Cosmetics campaign, they're pulling out. So is Victoria's collection. And? He consulted his tablet. 7 other brands have requested termination of their contracts with you. The words hit Maya like physical blows. What? Why? I haven't done anything wrong. It's not about right or wrong, Rebecca said softly. It's about optics. The story broke an hour ago, and social media is, well, it's brutal. #Maya got played is trending. The brands are worried about association. Maya felt the color drain from her face. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands and opened Instagram. Her mentions were flooded with comments, memes, and cruel jokes. Screenshots of her old posts about David, captioned with laughing emojis and snake emojis. Her follower count was dropping by the thousands as she watched. This can't be happening, she whispered. Maya, Marcus leaned forward. You're a beautiful, talented woman. This will blow over. But right now, we need to let you go. It's temporary, just until the heat dies down. The room spun around her. You're firing me? We're releasing you from your contract, one of the other suits corrected, as if the semantics mattered when her world was imploding. Maya stood on shaky legs. I see. Well, thank you for your years of loyalty. She turned and walked toward the door, her heels clicking against the polished floor with funeral precision. Just before she reached the exit, Rebecca called out. Maya, wait. There might be an opportunity. Something unconventional. Maya turned slowly. I'm listening. Adrian Blackwood, Rebecca said the name like it was both a prayer and a curse. He's looking for a personal assistant. The pay is exceptional, but... But what? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He has a reputation. No assistant has lasted more than 6 months. He's demanding, unpredictable, and some say he's impossible to work with. Who is he? Oil and real estate empire, Rebecca explained. Worth about 50 billion, give or take. He's also single, devastatingly handsome, and has never been photographed with the same woman twice. Maya felt a bitter laugh escape her lips. So I'd be trading one heartbreak for potential employment with another one? The salary is 3 million a year, Marcus said quietly. The number hung in the air like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Maya's rent alone was crushing her, and without her modeling contracts, she'd be broke within months. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. But Maya. Rebecca's expression was serious. Be careful. Adrian Blackwood isn't just a powerful man. He's a dangerous one. There are rumors about his business practices, his personal life. Just, watch yourself. Maya nodded, though she wasn't sure she had anything left to watch out for. Her life was already in ruins. What more could one man do to her? As she left the building, Maya caught her reflection in the glass doors. The woman looking back at her was a stranger, hollow-eyed, broken, but still breathing. Still fighting. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, looking forward to working with you tomorrow, Miss Okafor. Don't be late. A. Blackwood. Maya stared at the message. How did he already have her number? How did he even know she'd accepted? The first flutter of unease mixed with curiosity stirred in her chest. Adrian Blackwood was already proving to be full of surprises. She had no idea that tomorrow would change everything. Maya stood in front of the mirror in her tiny apartment, trying to transform herself from heartbroken model to professional assistant. The black blazer hung perfectly on her frame, the white blouse was crisp and conservative, and the pencil skirt hit just above her knees. She looked every inch the competent businesswoman. Too bad she felt like she was dying inside. Her phone had been buzzing all night with calls from reporters, friends offering hollow sympathy, and unknown numbers that she suspected were more journalists hunting for a story. She'd finally turned it off around 3 a.m., but sleep had remained elusive. Now, at 7 a.m., she stood in front of the Blackwood Tower, a gleaming monument to power and wealth that stretched 60 floors into the morning sky. The building was imposing, all dark glass and sharp angles, like it had been designed to intimidate anyone who dared approach. Maya took a deep breath and walked through the rotating doors into the lobby. The space was cavernous, with marble floors so polished she could see her reflection and abstract art that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. Miss Okafor? A woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and kind eyes approached her. I'm Helen Martinez, Mr. Blackwood's head of human resources. Welcome to Blackwood Enterprises. Thank you, Maya managed, grateful for the woman's warm smile. Mr. Blackwood is expecting you on the 58th floor. His private elevator is this way. Helen led her past the bank of regular elevators to a separate alcove where a single elevator waited, its doors made of what looked like pure gold. A few things before you go up, Helen said, her voice dropping to a confidential tone. Mr. Blackwood values punctuality, efficiency, and discretion above all else. He's brilliant, but he can be intense. Don't take it personally if he seems cold at first. He's testing you. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Maya stepped inside and noticed there were only 3 buttons, lobby, 57, and 58. The penthouse levels. One more thing, Helen called out as the doors began to close. Whatever you do, don't let him intimidate you. He respects strength. The elevator climbed silently, and Maya watched the floor numbers tick by on the digital display. When it reached 58, her heart was hammering against her ribs like a caged bird. The doors opened to reveal a reception area that looked more like an expensive hotel lobby than an office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city below, and everything was decorated in shades of charcoal, silver, and deep blue. Miss Okafor. The voice came from behind her, rich and deep with a slight British accent that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. Maya turned around and nearly forgot how to breathe. Adrian Blackwood was nothing like she had expected. She'd imagined an older man, perhaps distinguished but soft around the edges from years of luxury. Instead, she found herself face to face with what could only be described as a force of nature. He was tall, easily 6'3", with broad shoulders that filled out his charcoal suit perfectly. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd been running his fingers through it, and his eyes were the most startling shade of green she'd ever seen. But it wasn't just his looks that took her breath away. It was the way he carried himself, the aura of controlled power that radiated from him like heat from a fire. "Mr. Blackwood," she managed, extending her hand professionally. He looked down at her offered hand for a moment before taking it in his own. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an electric jolt up her arm that she definitely hadn't been expecting. "You're younger than I expected," he said, his green eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her feel exposed. "I'm 26. I assure you, I'm perfectly capable of. And beautiful." He released her hand abruptly, as if it had burned him. That could be a problem. Maya felt her temper flare. After everything she'd been through in the last 24 hours, she was in no mood to be dismissed because of her appearance. "Mr. Blackwood, if you're concerned about my looks interfering with my work, then perhaps you should have hired someone else. I'm here because I need this job, not because I'm looking for complications." Something shifted in his expression. The corner of his mouth quirked up in what might have been the beginning of a smile. "Good. You have backbone. You'll need it." He turned and walked toward a set of double doors. "Come. Let me show you what you've gotten yourself into." Maya followed him into what she could only describe as an office fit for a king. The space was enormous, with dark wood paneling, leather furniture that probably cost more than her car, and windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. A massive desk dominated one end of the room, and she could see 3 different computer monitors, several phones, and stacks of papers that suggested this was a man who took his work very seriously. "Your desk," he said, gesturing to a smaller but still impressive workspace positioned near his own. "You'll manage my schedule, handle my correspondence, screen my calls, and accompany me to meetings and social events as needed." "Social events?" Maya asked. "Business dinners, galas, charity functions. I attend approximately 4 per week. You'll need appropriate attire. There's an account set up at Nordstrom with a monthly allowance of $150,000. Maya's eyes widened. $150,000? For clothes? "Appearances matter in my world, Miss Okafor. You'll be representing me." He moved to his desk and picked up a thick folder. "These are the people you need to know: board members, major clients, competitors. Study them. Their faces, their names, their weaknesses." "Weaknesses?" "Information is power. The more you know about the people I deal with, the more valuable you become to me." He handed her the folder, and their fingers brushed again. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Maya couldn't name. Adrian's green eyes searched her face, and she felt like he was looking past all her defenses, seeing things she kept hidden even from herself. "Sir?" A voice from the intercom broke the spell. Adrien stepped back abruptly. "Yes, Jennifer? Your 10 a.m. is here. Mr. Patterson from Patterson Industries." Adrien straightened his tie, the mask of the ruthless businessman sliding back into place. "Send him in 5 minutes. Miss Okafor, observe but don't speak unless I ask you a direct question. This meeting will teach you everything you need to know about how I conduct business." Maya settled into the chair beside his desk and opened the folder. The first photo made her stomach drop. It was David, smiling at the camera in what looked like a professional headshot. The caption beneath read, "David Adebayo, tech entrepreneur, CEO of NextGen Solutions. Recently engaged to model Sarah Chen. Known weaknesses: gambling, expensive tastes, desperate for validation from old money families." Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped to the next page. Sarah's photo stared back at her, all perfect features and cold eyes. Sarah Chen, international model, recently engaged to David Adebayo. Known for ruthless ambition and willingness to betray friends for career advancement. Interesting reading? Adrian's voice was casual, but when Maya looked up, his eyes were watching her carefully. "You know," she said quietly, "I know everything about everyone I work with. Including the fact that your ex-boyfriend and former best friend made quite the spectacle of themselves last night." He leaned back in his chair. "The question is, will it affect your work?" Maya closed the folder and met his gaze directly. No. It won't. Good. Because in about 30 seconds, Mr. Patterson is going to walk through that door and try to convince me to invest $50 million in his failing company. He's desperate, which makes him dangerous. He'll also likely recognize you from the news and try to use your situation to gain leverage over me. What kind of leverage? He'll assume you're emotionally compromised and try to paint me as the kind of man who preys on vulnerable women. It's a favorite tactic of men who mistake cruelty for strength. The door opened, and a middle-aged man in an expensive but slightly rumpled suit entered. He was balding, with nervous eyes and the soft physique of someone who spent too much time at business lunches. "Adrien," he exclaimed with false heartiness. "Good to see you again." "Patterson." Adrian's voice was cool. "Sit down. You have 15 minutes. As Patterson launched into his pitch, Maya watched Adrien work. He was like a surgeon with a scalpel, cutting through the man's lies and exaggerations with surgical precision. When Patterson tried to inflate his company's value, Adrien countered with exact figures that proved the company was hemorrhaging money. When Patterson claimed his product was revolutionary, Adrien named 3 competitors who were already doing it better. But it was when Patterson's eyes fell on Maya that the real show began. "I see you've hired some new talent," Patterson said with a sleazy smile. "Isn't this the girl who was all over the news last night? The one whose boyfriend left her for her best friend?" Maya felt her face burn with humiliation, but before she could react, Adrian's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Mr. Patterson." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I suggest you focus on explaining why I should waste my money on your dying company rather than commenting on my staff." "I just thought." "You thought wrong. Miss Okafor is one of the most intelligent, capable women I've ever worked with. If you're looking for weakness to exploit, you're looking in the wrong place." Adrien stood up, and even though Patterson remained seated, he seemed to shrink. "Your company is losing money because you're more interested in office gossip than business strategy. This meeting is over." Patterson's face went red. "Now wait just a minute. Security will escort you out." Adrien pressed a button on his desk. "And Patterson? If I hear that you've repeated Miss Okafor's name in connection with anything other than professional admiration, I'll make sure every major investor in the city knows exactly how close to bankruptcy you really are." 2 security guards appeared and gently but firmly escorted the sputtering Patterson from the office. When the door closed behind them, silence fell like a curtain. Maya stared at Adrien in amazement. "You didn't have to do that." "Do what?" He was already looking at papers on his desk, as if the entire confrontation had been nothing more than swatting a fly. "Defend me. Stand up for me." He looked up then, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "Miss Okafor, you are under my protection now. Anyone who tries to use your personal pain as a weapon against you will answer to me. Is that understood?" The fierce protectiveness in his voice sent a warm wave through her chest. "Yes, sir." "Good. Now, cancel my lunch with the Riverside Development Group and move my 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. We're going shopping." "Shopping? You need appropriate clothes for tonight's charity gala. I can't have you looking like..." He gestured vaguely at her outfit. Maya looked down at her conservative business attire. "What's wrong with how I look?" "You look like you're trying to disappear. Tonight, you need to look like you belong at my side." He stood up and reached for his coat. "Let's go. We have a lot of work to do." As Maya followed Adrien toward the elevator, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of his office windows. He was right, she did look like she was trying to disappear. For the first time in her life, she had been hiding instead of shining. But as the elevator doors closed and Adrien pressed the button for the lobby, Maya felt something stir inside her chest. Something that had been dormant since the moment she saw David slip that ring onto Sarah's finger. It felt dangerously like hope. The boutique was like something out of a fairy tale, all crystal chandeliers and plush velvet chairs. Maya had been in high-end stores before during her modeling career, but this was different. This wasn't about work, this was personal. "Miss Okafor, welcome." A woman who looked like she'd stepped off the pages of Vogue glided toward them. She had silver hair perfectly coiffed and wore a black dress that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. "I'm Vivian." Mr. Blackwood called ahead. "We have several options prepared for you." Maya glanced at Adrien, who was checking his phone with the intense focus of a man running an empire. You called ahead? I called while you were gathering your things from your desk, he said without looking up. Efficiency, Miss Okafor. It's what separates successful people from everyone else. Vivian led them to a private room in the back of the store, where a dozen dresses hung on a golden rack. Each one was more stunning than the last, deep jewel tones, flowing fabrics, intricate beadwork that caught the light like captured stars. For tonight's gala, I was thinking something that commands attention without being overwhelming, Vivian said, running her fingers along the dresses. You have such a striking figure, we want to highlight your assets while maintaining elegance. Maya reached for a conservative navy blue dress, but Adrian's hand closed over her wrist, stopping her. No, he said firmly. That's the old Maya. Tonight, I need you to be magnificent. His touch sent electricity shooting up her arm, and Maya found herself staring into those impossibly green eyes. There was something there, a challenge, maybe, or a promise. I don't understand, she whispered. You've been hiding since the moment I met you this morning. Shoulders hunched, voice quiet, trying to take up as little space as possible. His thumb traced across her pulse point, and Maya was sure he could feel how fast her heart was beating. But I've seen your magazine covers. I know what you're capable of when you let yourself shine. Vivian cleared her throat delicately. Perhaps we could start with this one? She pulled out a dress that made Maya's breath catch. It was deep emerald green silk that flowed like water, with a neckline that was daring but not inappropriate and a cut that would hug every curve. It was gorgeous, sophisticated, and absolutely terrifying. I can't wear that, Maya said immediately. Why not? Adrian's voice was a challenge. Because. She struggled to find the words. Because it was the kind of dress that demanded confidence she no longer possessed. Because it was the kind of dress that would make people look at her, and right now, she just wanted to disappear. Because it was the kind of dress that would make her feel beautiful, and she wasn't sure she deserved to feel beautiful after being so completely rejected. Because you're afraid, Adrien said, reading her thoughts with unnerving accuracy. I'm not afraid, Maya lied. Then prove it. Put on the dress. It was a dare, plain and simple. Maya looked from the dress to Adrian's challenging expression to Vivian's encouraging smile. Something inside her, some part of herself she thought had died last night, stirred to life. Fine, she said, taking the dress from Vivian. But if I look ridiculous, I'm blaming you. The dressing room was spacious and elegant, with mirrors on three sides and lighting that was impossibly flattering. Maya slipped out of her conservative business attire and into the emerald silk. The transformation was immediate and shocking. The dress fit like it had been made for her, clinging to her curves and making her skin glow. The color brought out the golden flecks in her brown eyes and complemented her complexion perfectly. For the first time in 24 hours, Maya looked like herself again. No, that wasn't right. She looked like a better version of herself. A version that commanded attention and respect. A version that belonged on Adrian Blackwood's arm. She opened the dressing room door and stepped out. Adrien looked up from his phone, and whatever he was going to say died on his lips. His green eyes swept over her from head to toe, and Maya saw something flicker in their depths that made her pulse quicken. Well, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jesus, he breathed, and the raw appreciation in his voice made her skin tingle. Is that good or bad? It's. He seemed to struggle for words, which was surprising for a man who commanded boardrooms with his eloquence. It's perfect. Vivian clapped her hands together. Oh, wonderful. Now we need shoes, jewelry, and a clutch. And we should do something with your hair. The next 2 hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Maya was measured, fitted, accessorized, and pampered until she barely recognized herself. Through it all, Adrien watched with an intensity that made her hyper-aware of every breath, every movement. When the stylists finally finished with her hair and makeup, Maya looked in the mirror and gasped. Her dark hair had been swept into an elegant updo with a few tendrils framing her face. Her makeup was flawless but natural, emphasizing her features without overwhelming them. The emerald dress hugged her like a second skin, and the matching heels made her legs look impossibly long. She looked powerful. She looked confident. She looked like a woman who belonged in Adrian Blackwood's world. Ready? Adrien appeared behind her in the mirror, devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo. Maya turned to face him, and the look in his eyes made her knees weak. It was hunger, pure and simple. The kind of look that could set a woman on fire. Ready, she managed. The charity gala was being held at the Grand Plaza Hotel, and Maya's breath caught as their limousine pulled up to the red carpet. Photographers lined both sides of the walkway, their flashes creating a constant strobing light. Beautiful people in expensive clothes posed and preened for the cameras. Second thoughts? Adrien asked, noticing her hesitation. Maybe, Maya admitted. It's just, the last time I walked a red carpet, I was somebody. Now I'm. You're my assistant, Adrien said firmly. Which makes you one of the most powerful women in this room. Don't you ever forget that. The car door opened, and Adrien stepped out first before offering his hand to help her out. The moment Maya's heels touched the red carpet, the photographers went crazy. Adrien! Over here. Who's your date? Is this the model from the news? Adrien's hand settled on the small of Maya's back, warm and reassuring. Ignore them, he murmured in her ear. Look straight ahead. You're not here for them, you're here with me. They made their way down the red carpet, pausing occasionally for photos. Maya was amazed at how comfortable Adrien was with the attention, how he managed to look both approachable and untouchable at the same time. Inside the ballroom, the gala was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables draped in white silk and adorned with towering flower arrangements. The city's elite mingled and laughed, their jewels catching the light like captured stars. Mr. Blackwood. A distinguished older man approached them with a warm smile. So good to see you. And you must be Miss Okafor. I'm Charles Whitmore, chairman of the hospital board. We're so grateful for your donation to the children's wing. Maya shook his hand, noting how Adrien had arranged for her to be introduced as an equal, not just his assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Whitmore. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself amazed at how seamlessly she fit into Adrien's world. He introduced her to CEOs, politicians, and celebrities, always with respect and never as arm candy. When people asked about her background, he redirected the conversation to her intelligence and capabilities. But it was during the auction that everything changed. Our next item, the auctioneer announced, is a week-long stay at a private resort in the Caribbean, donated by Paradise Holdings. Bidding starts at $10,000. Maya watched as hands went up around the room, the price climbing higher and higher. She was admiring the efficiency of it all when she heard a familiar voice behind her. I can't believe she showed her face here after what happened. Maya's blood turned to ice. She recognized that voice, Jennifer Walsh, a socialite who had never liked Maya even during her successful modeling days. I heard she was practically begging for work, another voice added. Apparently, no one wants to hire her after the scandal. And now she's clinging to Adrian Blackwood like a life preserver. How pathetic. Maya felt her cheeks burn with humiliation. She started to turn around, to confront them, but Adrien's hand on her arm stopped her. Don't, he said quietly. They're not worth it. But they're jealous, he interrupted. Look around this room, Maya. Every woman here wishes she was in your position. Every man here envies me because I'm with you. You don't have to say that, Maya whispered. I don't say things I don't mean. His green eyes burned into hers. You are the most beautiful, most captivating woman in this room. And if those small-minded people can't see that, it's their loss. The auction continued around them, but Maya was lost in Adrien's gaze. The rest of the room faded away until it was just the two of them in their own private bubble. Sold to Mr. Blackwood for $100,000, the auctioneer's voice broke through their moment. Maya blinked in confusion. What did you buy? The Caribbean vacation, Adrien said with a slight smile. I thought you might need a break after your first week on the job. You bought a vacation for me? I bought a vacation for us, he corrected. You'll be working, of course. I never really stop working. The implication hung between them like a live wire. A week alone with Adrian Blackwood on a private island. Maya's pulse quickened just thinking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the auctioneer continued, our final item of the evening is truly special. A private concert by international sensation Marcus Reed, to be held in the winner's home. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Maya barely heard the rest of the announcement. She was too busy trying to process the fact that Adrien had just casually dropped $100,000 on a vacation for her. For them. You didn't have to do that, she said. I wanted to, he replied simply. You've had a difficult week. You deserve something good. The kindness in his voice nearly undid her. After a day of feeling worthless and humiliated, Adrian's generosity was overwhelming. Thank you, she whispered, meaning it more than she'd ever meant anything. Don't thank me yet, he said with a mysterious smile. The week isn't over. As the gala began to wind down, Maya excused herself to use the restroom. She needed a moment to collect herself, to process everything that had happened. In the elegant powder room, she touched up her lipstick and tried to calm her racing heart. The door opened behind her, and Sarah Chen walked in. Maya's entire body went rigid. Of all the people she didn't want to see tonight, Sarah was at the top of the list. Her former best friend looked stunning in a white dress that probably cost more than most people's cars, her long black hair swept into a perfect chignon. Maya, Sarah said, her voice carefully neutral. I wasn't sure you'd be here. Sarah. Maya kept her voice equally neutral, though inside she was screaming. They stood at opposite ends of the marble counter, the silence stretching between them like a chasm. I suppose congratulations are in order, Maya said finally. On your engagement. Sarah had the grace to look uncomfortable. Maya, I wanted to talk to you. To explain. Explain what? How you've been sleeping with my boyfriend behind my back. How you sat at my kitchen table last month and listened to me talk about how much I loved him while you were planning to steal him away. It wasn't like that, Sarah said weakly. It just happened. Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. It just happened? For how long, Sarah? How long were you lying to my face? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. 6 months, she whispered. The number hit Maya like a physical blow. 6 months. Half a year of betrayal, of lies, of being made a fool of by the two people she trusted most in the world. You were my best friend, Maya said, her voice breaking slightly. I loved you like a sister. I would have died for you. I know, Sarah said, tears beginning to flow. I know, and I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. Maya straightened her shoulders, drawing on reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. You chose him over our friendship. You chose your own happiness over my heart. Maya, please. No. Maya's voice was steel. You made your choice. Live with it. But don't you dare ask me to forgive you. Don't you dare ask me to understand. What you did was unforgivable. Sarah's face crumpled. I lost my best friend too, you know. I miss you every day. You didn't lose me, Sarah. You threw me away. Maya moved toward the door, then paused. I hope he makes you happy. I hope it was worth it. She walked out of the powder room with her head held high, leaving Sarah crying behind the marble counter. It wasn't until she was safely in the hallway that Maya allowed herself to breathe. There you are. Adrien appeared at her side as if he'd been waiting for her. Ready to go? Maya looked up at him, this man who had defended her, protected her, and shown her more kindness in one day than she'd received in months. Yes, she said. I'm ready. As they walked toward the exit, Maya caught a glimpse of David across the room. He was looking right at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, their eyes met across the crowded ballroom. Maya felt nothing. No pain, no anger, no regret. Just emptiness where her love for him used to be. She turned away without a second glance and took Adrian's offered arm. Outside, their limousine was waiting. As they settled into the plush leather seats, Adrien poured 2 glasses of champagne from the minibar. To surviving your first day, he said, raising his glass. To new beginnings, Maya countered, clinking her glass against his. They drank in comfortable silence as the city lights flashed by outside the windows. Maya felt drained but oddly peaceful. She had survived the worst day of her life, and somehow, she had come out stronger. Maya, Adrien said suddenly. What happened between you and David? It wasn't your fault. Maya looked at him in surprise. How can you be so sure? Because I've spent the day watching you work. You're intelligent, dedicated, loyal to a fault. Any man who would throw that away for someone else is an idiot who doesn't deserve you. The sincerity in his voice made Maya's chest tighten with emotion. Thank you, she whispered. I needed to hear that. It's the truth. Adrien set down his champagne glass and turned to face her fully. Maya, I want you to promise me something. What? Promise me you won't let what happened with David and Sarah define you. You're worth so much more than their betrayal. Maya studied his face in the dim light of the limousine. There was something in his expression that made her pulse quicken, an intensity that went beyond professional concern. Why do you care? She asked softly. Adrien was quiet for a long moment, his green eyes searching her face. Because, he said finally, I recognize the look in your eyes. The same look I had when my world fell apart. What happened to you? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That's a story for another day. Tonight is about you moving forward. The limousine pulled up to Maya's apartment building, and Adrien walked her to the door like a perfect gentleman. As they stood under the soft glow of the porch light, Maya felt the evening's magic beginning to fade, reality creeping back in. Thank you, she said. For everything. The dress, the gala, defending me. You don't need to thank me for treating you with the respect you deserve. Adrien reached up and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The simple touch sent shivers down Maya's spine. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start preparing for the Henderson merger, and it's going to be intense. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. As Adrien turned to go, she called out impulsively. Adrien? He stopped and looked back. I'm glad it was you, she said. I'm glad you were the one who gave me a second chance. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, perhaps, or something deeper. Good night, Maya. As she watched his limousine disappear into the night, Maya touched her cheek where his fingers had brushed her skin. Whatever was happening between them, it was dangerous. But after a day of feeling powerless and broken, the danger felt intoxicating. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, the emerald dress rustling with each step. Tomorrow, she would go back to being Adrian Blackwood's assistant. But tonight, for just a few more hours, she could pretend she was Cinderella. Maya arrived at the office the next morning 20 minutes early, determined to prove that the previous night's gala hadn't affected her professionalism. She wore a tailored gray suit that was conservative but flattering, and she'd pulled her hair back into a sleek bun that meant business. But when the elevator doors opened to Adrian's floor, she found chaos waiting for her. Miss Okafor, thank God you're here, Jennifer, the receptionist, rushed toward her with panic in her eyes. Mr. Blackwood has been here since 5 a.m., and he's been asking for you every 15 minutes. The Henderson people moved up their meeting to this afternoon, and there are reporters calling nonstop about last night. Maya's stomach dropped. Reporters? Apparently, someone got photos of you and Mr. Blackwood at the gala. They're calling you his mystery woman and asking if you're dating. Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Of course. She should have expected this. In her world, her former world, everything was scrutinized, dissected, turned into gossip. Where is Mr. Blackwood now? Conference room B, on a call with Tokyo. But Miss Okafor? Jennifer lowered her voice. He seemed different this morning. More intense than usual, if that's possible. Maya thanked Jennifer and made her way to the conference room. Through the glass walls, she could see Adrien pacing while talking on his phone. Even from a distance, she could sense the controlled energy radiating from him. She knocked softly and entered when he gestured for her to come in. No, Takashi, I don't care if it's midnight there. If Patterson Industries makes a move on the Nakamura account, I want to know immediately. Adrien's voice was sharp, all business. Use whatever resources you need. I want them neutralized before they can do any damage. He ended the call and looked at Maya, and she felt that familiar jolt of electricity. Today, his suit was navy blue, perfectly tailored to his broad shoulders. His dark hair looked like he'd been running his fingers through it, and there was a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there the night before. You've seen the news, he said without preamble. Jennifer mentioned reporters were calling. Adrien picked up his tablet and handed it to her. The screen showed a gossip website with a large photo of them from the red carpet. The headline read, Billionaire's New Love, Adrian Blackwood steps out with disgraced model Maya Okafor. Maya's face burned as she read the article. It speculated about their relationship, rehashed the entire David and Sarah scandal, and painted her as a gold digger who had landed on her feet remarkably quickly. I'm sorry, she said, handing the tablet back to him. I didn't think about the photographers. I should have. Should have what? Hidden in the bathroom all night? Adrian's voice was sharp. Maya, this is not your fault. This is what happens when you're in my world. The vultures circle, looking for any hint of weakness they can exploit. But they're calling me your... My what? My date? My companion? You were both of those things last night. Adrien moved closer to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and intoxicating. The question is, does it bother you? Maya looked up into his green eyes, searching for the right answer. Did it bother her? The idea of being linked romantically with Adrian Blackwood? A man who was powerful, attractive, and had shown her more kindness in 2 days than David had in months. No, she said honestly. It doesn't bother me. But it might complicate things. Everything worthwhile is complicated. Adrian's gaze dropped to her lips for just a moment before snapping back to her eyes. Can you handle complicated, Maya? The air between them crackled with tension. Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, and Adrien was asking her if she was ready to jump. I can handle whatever you need me to handle, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Something dangerous flickered in Adrian's eyes. Good. Because the Henderson meeting is in 4 hours, and they're going to try to use this media attention to rattle us. Richard Henderson is a traditional man who believes women should be seen and not heard. He's going to assume you're a distraction. And what do you need me to do? I need you to prove him wrong. I need you to show him exactly why I chose you to be by my side. Adrien moved even closer, close enough that Maya could feel the heat radiating from his body. Can you do that? Maya's pulse was racing, but she forced herself to maintain eye contact. Yes. Good. Because Maya. Adrien reached up and straightened her jacket lapel, the simple touch sending fire through her veins. I have a feeling the next few weeks are going to test both of us in ways we can't imagine. Before Maya could ask what he meant, the conference room door burst open. A tall, elegant woman in her 40s strode in, her silver hair perfectly styled and her expression thunderous. Adrian Blackwood, what the hell do you think you're doing? Adrien didn't seem surprised by the interruption. Hello, Victoria. Maya, meet my older sister, Victoria Blackwood Sterling. Victoria, this is Maya Okafor, my new assistant. Victoria's ice blue eyes swept over Maya with the efficiency of a laser scanner. Your assistant? Is that what we're calling it now? Careful, Adrian's voice carried a warning. Maya is under my protection. Protection? Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. Adrien, do you have any idea what the board is saying right now? What the media is implying? You're supposed to be the stable one, the responsible one. You can't afford a scandal right now. There is no scandal, Adrien said calmly. Maya is my assistant. She attended a business function with me. End of story. Oh please, Victoria scoffed. I saw the photos, Adrien. The way you were looking at her? That wasn't business. Maya felt heat creep up her neck. Victoria was right, there had been moments last night when the looks between her and Adrien had been anything but professional. Victoria, I think you should leave, Adrien said, his voice dangerously quiet. Not until you explain to me why you're risking everything for a woman you barely know. Victoria turned to Maya, her expression softening slightly. No offense, dear. I'm sure you're lovely. But my brother has a tendency to rescue wounded birds, and it never ends well. That's enough. Adrien stepped between Victoria and Maya, his body language protective. Maya, would you excuse us for a moment? Maya nodded and left the conference room, but she could still hear their raised voices through the glass walls. She couldn't make out the words, but the tension was obvious. Family drama? Jennifer appeared at her elbow with a cup of coffee. Something like that, Maya accepted the coffee gratefully. How often does his sister visit? Victoria? Not often. Usually only when she thinks Adrien is making a mistake. Jennifer glanced toward the conference room. She means well, but she's very protective of the family reputation. Their parents died when Adrien was 25, and he had to take over the company. Victoria helped him navigate the social aspects, taught him which events to attend, which people to trust, that sort of thing. Maya absorbed this information. So Adrien had lost his parents young and had been thrust into running a billion-dollar empire. No wonder he seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. The conference room door opened, and Victoria emerged looking frustrated. She paused next to Maya's desk. "A word of advice," she said quietly. "My brother is a good man, but he's also incredibly powerful. Don't mistake his kindness for weakness, and don't think you can handle the pressure that comes with being in his world. Many have tried. All have failed." With that ominous warning, Victoria clicked away on her designer heels, leaving Maya to wonder what she had gotten herself into. Adrien emerged from the conference room a few minutes later, his expression unreadable. "I apologize for my sister. She's protective. She's worried about you," Maya observed. "About your reputation." "My reputation can handle whatever rumors the gossips want to spread." Adrien moved to his desk and began gathering papers. "What it can't handle is weakness. And right now, showing any sign that I'm affected by media speculation would be seen as weakness." Maya understood. In Adrien's world, perception was everything. Any hint that he could be manipulated or distracted would be seized upon by his enemies. "So what do we do?" she asked. "We ignore it. We focus on work. And we show everyone that I didn't choose you as my assistant because you're beautiful, I chose you because you're exceptional." Adrien looked up from his papers, and Maya saw something in his eyes that made her pulse quicken. "Are you ready to be exceptional, Maya?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Good. Because the Henderson meeting starts in 3 hours, and by the time we're done, everyone in this city is going to know exactly why I chose you." The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Maya absorbed information like a sponge: financial reports, competitor analysis, psychological profiles of the Henderson team. Adrien was a demanding teacher, but he was also patient, answering her questions and helping her understand the nuances of high-stakes negotiations. "Henderson will try to unsettle us," Adrien explained as they reviewed the final details. "He'll make comments about your presence, about the media attention, about anything he thinks will throw us off our game. Ignore him. Focus on the facts, the numbers, the deal itself. What if he asks me direct questions? Answer them honestly and confidently. You know this material as well as I do now." Adrien straightened his tie and checked his watch. "They'll be here in 15 minutes. Any final questions?" Maya looked down at her notes, then back at Adrien. "Just one. Why are you trusting me with something this important? I've been your assistant for exactly 1 day." Adrien was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "Because," he said finally, "yesterday when Patterson tried to humiliate you, you didn't break. You didn't run. You stood your ground with dignity and grace. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Before Maya could respond, Jennifer's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Blackwood, the Henderson party is here." Adrien stood up and extended his hand to Maya. "Ready to show them what we're made of?" Maya took his hand, feeling the familiar jolt of electricity at his touch. "Ready." The conference room filled with people: Richard Henderson and his team of lawyers and advisors on one side, Adrien and Maya on the other. Henderson was exactly as Maya had imagined: a silver-haired man in his 60s with cold eyes and a condescending smile. "Adrien," Henderson said, shaking Adrien's hand. "Good to see you. And this must be your assistant." He looked at Maya like she was an interesting but ultimately insignificant decoration. "Maya Okafor," Adrien said smoothly. "My senior strategic advisor. She'll be handling the due diligence aspects of our discussion today." Maya caught the subtle promotion in her title and didn't miss a beat. "Mr. Henderson, thank you for accommodating the schedule change. I know your time is valuable." Henderson's eyebrows rose slightly. He'd clearly expected her to be silent arm candy, not an active participant in the negotiations. "Shall we begin?" Adrien gestured to the conference table. What followed was 3 hours of intense negotiations. Henderson and his team tried every trick in the book: intimidation tactics, misleading financial projections, attempts to rush Adrien into unfavorable terms. But Adrien was like a master chess player, always 3 moves ahead. And Maya proved herself to be a formidable ally. When Henderson tried to downplay his company's debt obligations, Maya countered with exact figures from the SEC filings. When his lawyer attempted to slip problematic language into the contract, Maya caught it immediately. When Henderson himself tried to dismiss her input with a patronizing smile, Maya calmly presented an analysis that exposed the flaws in his negotiating position. By the end of the meeting, Henderson's condescending attitude had transformed into grudging respect. "Well," Henderson said as they shook hands on the preliminary agreement. "I have to admit, Adrien, your assistant is quite impressive. Where did you find her?" "Maya found me," Adrien replied, his hand settling on the small of Maya's back. The possessive gesture wasn't lost on anyone in the room. "And I consider myself very fortunate." As the Henderson team filed out, Maya felt a surge of pride and accomplishment. She had done it. She had proven herself in Adrien's world. "How did I do?" she asked once they were alone. Adrien turned to her, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. It was pride, admiration, and something much more dangerous. "You were magnificent," he said, his voice low and rough. "Absolutely magnificent." He moved closer to her, close enough that Maya could see the flecks of gold in his green eyes. The air between them crackled with tension, with possibility, with the promise of something that could change everything. "Maya," he whispered, his hand coming up to cup her face. "Yes?" Her voice was barely a breath. "We should." He seemed to struggle with himself. "We should celebrate. Dinner. Somewhere quiet where we can discuss the next phase of the merger." Maya knew he was offering her an out, a way to keep things professional. But she also saw the hunger in his eyes, felt the magnetic pull between them that had nothing to do with business. "I'd like that," she said softly. Adrien's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "Maya, I need you to understand something. What's happening between us, it's not just about work anymore. I know. And if we cross this line, there's no going back. My world is complicated, dangerous. People will use our relationship against us, against you." Maya thought about David, about Sarah, about all the ways she had already been hurt and betrayed. Then she looked into Adrien's eyes and saw something she had never seen before: complete honesty, fierce protection, and a desire that matched her own. "I'm not afraid of complicated," she said. Adrien's smile was slow and devastating. "Good," he murmured, leaning closer. "Because Maya Okafor, you're about to turn my entire world upside down." Just as his lips were about to touch hers, the conference room door burst open. "Adrien!" Jennifer's voice was panicked. "You need to see this. Now." They sprang apart, and Maya felt the loss of his warmth like a physical ache. Adrien's expression shifted immediately back to business mode. "What is it?" Jennifer held up her phone, her face pale. "It's David Adebayo. He's giving an interview to Channel 7 News. About Maya." Maya's blood turned to ice. On Jennifer's phone screen, she could see David's familiar face, his expression serious and concerned as he spoke to a reporter. "Maya and I had a complicated relationship," David was saying. "I'm just worried about her mental state right now. She's clearly rebounding, making impulsive decisions. Adrian Blackwood has a reputation for taking advantage of vulnerable women." The rest of his words faded into white noise as Maya felt her world tilt sideways. Even now, even after everything, David was still finding ways to humiliate her, to make her look weak and pathetic. But before she could fully process the implications, she felt Adrien's hand on her shoulder, steady and reassuring. "Maya," his voice was deadly calm. "Look at me." She turned to face him, and the cold fury in his green eyes should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel safe. Protected. "He just made the biggest mistake of his life," Adrien said quietly. "And by the time I'm finished with him, he's going to regret every word that just came out of his mouth." Maya realized that David had no idea what he had just unleashed. He thought he was dealing with the same broken woman he had discarded. He didn't know that Maya Okafor now had Adrian Blackwood in her corner. And Adrian Blackwood, as she was beginning to learn, was not a man you wanted as an enemy. "What are you going to do?" Maya asked. Adrian's smile was sharp as a blade. "I'm going to destroy him." Maya stared at Adrien in shock. The transformation in him was immediate and complete. Gone was the man who had been about to kiss her moments before, replaced by something cold and calculating that reminded her why people called him ruthless. "Adrien, you can't." "Can't what?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "Can't defend you against a pathetic little man who's trying to salvage his own reputation by destroying yours? Can't protect what's mine?" The possessive pronoun hung in the air between them like a live wire. Maya felt her pulse quicken, but before she could respond, Adrien was already moving into action. Jennifer, get me Marcus Chen on the phone. Now. Adrian's voice carried the authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed instantly. Marcus Chen? Maya asked, confused. Sarah's father, Adrien explained grimly. He owns Chen Industries, one of David's biggest investors. Maya's eyes widened. You're going to. I'm going to remind Mr. Chen that his daughter's fiancé just publicly accused me of predatory behavior. Marcus is a traditional man who values honor and respect above all else. He won't appreciate David dragging his family into a media circus. Jennifer rushed back into the conference room. Mr. Chen is on line 1. Adrien picked up the phone, and Maya watched in fascination as he shifted into what she was beginning to recognize as his negotiation mode. His voice became perfectly controlled, almost casual. Marcus, good to hear your voice. Yes, I saw the interview. I'm sure you can understand my concern. Your future son-in-law just publicly questioned my business ethics and suggested I prey on vulnerable women. Of course, I know you don't share his opinions, but the media doesn't know that. Maya could only hear one side of the conversation, but she could tell from Adrian's satisfied expression that it was going exactly as he'd planned. I appreciate your understanding, Marcus. I'm sure David will want to issue a public apology once he realizes how his words could be interpreted. Yes, tonight would be perfect. Thank you. Adrien hung up the phone and turned to Maya with a smile that was equal parts charming and predatory. What just happened? Maya asked. Marcus Chen is having dinner with David tonight. During that dinner, he's going to explain that David's public comments about me could jeopardize the $15 million Chen Industries has invested in David's company. He'll suggest that David might want to clarify his statements. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. You're going to make him apologize publicly? I'm going to give him the opportunity to apologize publicly, Adrien corrected. What he does with that opportunity is up to him. And if he doesn't take it? Adrian's smile turned shark-like. Then I'll move to phase 2 of my response. Before Maya could ask what phase 2 entailed, Adrian's phone rang again. He glanced at the caller ID and his expression darkened. Patricia Holmes, he said to Maya. The reporter who interviewed David. Excuse me for a moment. Adrien answered the call, and Maya watched as he paced the length of the conference room like a caged predator. Patricia. Yes, I saw your interview with Mr. Adebayo. No, I don't have any comment at this time. Actually, I do have a statement for you. Are you recording? Adrien paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Miss Maya Okafor is one of the most intelligent, capable, and professional individuals I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Any suggestion that our business relationship is anything other than completely appropriate is not only false but defamatory. As for Mr. Adebayo's concerns about Miss Okafor's mental state, I would suggest that his own judgment is questionable, given his recent personal choices. The subtle dig at David's affair with Sarah was delivered with surgical precision. Adrien ended the call and looked at Maya. That should air on the evening news, he said. Now, let's discuss dinner. Maya blinked at the abrupt change of subject. Dinner? We had plans, remember? To celebrate today's successful negotiation. Adrien moved closer to her, and Maya felt the dangerous magnetism that seemed to surround him like an aura. Unless you're having second thoughts? Maya looked into his green eyes, searching for any sign of the cold calculator who had just systematically begun dismantling David's life. But all she saw was warmth, desire, and something that looked almost vulnerable. No second thoughts, she said softly. Adrian's smile transformed his entire face. Good. I know just the place. An hour later, Maya found herself in the back of Adrian's limousine, heading toward an exclusive restaurant she'd only read about in magazines. She had changed into a simple black dress that managed to be both elegant and understated, appropriate for a business dinner but flattering enough to remind Adrien that she was still a woman. You're quiet, Adrien observed, pouring champagne from the car's minibar. I'm still processing what happened back there, Maya admitted. The way you handled David, the reporter, Sarah's father, it was impressive. And a little scary. Adrien handed her a glass of champagne, his fingers brushing hers in the process. Power is only scary when it's used irresponsibly. I would never hurt an innocent person. But David isn't innocent? David Adebayo chose to make this personal when he attacked your character on national television. He opened the door to retaliation. Adrian's voice was matter of fact, as if he were discussing the weather. I'm simply walking through it. Maya sipped her champagne, studying Adrian's profile as he gazed out the window. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Earlier, when your sister was here, she mentioned that you have a tendency to rescue wounded birds. What did she mean? Adrien was quiet for so long that Maya thought he wasn't going to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. When I was 28, I met a woman named Isabella. She was an artist, talented, beautiful, struggling to make it in a world that didn't appreciate her work. I thought I could help her, protect her, give her everything she needed to succeed. Maya felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy. What happened? She used me, Adrien said simply. For 2 years, she played the role of the grateful, loving girlfriend while systematically stealing from me. Not just money, business secrets, client information, strategic plans. She was working for one of my competitors the entire time. Adrien. Maya reached out and touched his arm. I'm so sorry. When I found out, it nearly destroyed me. Not just professionally, though she did significant damage to several major deals. It was the betrayal itself. The realization that someone I loved, someone I trusted completely, had been lying to me from the very beginning. Maya understood now why Adrien kept people at arm's length, why he was so guarded despite his apparent openness. He had learned the hard way that trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Is that why you don't date? Why Victoria was so concerned about me? Adrien turned to look at her, his green eyes intense in the dim light of the limousine. After Isabella, I swore I would never again let my personal feelings interfere with my judgment. I built walls, Maya. High walls designed to keep everyone out. And now? Now I've met a woman who makes me want to tear those walls down with my bare hands. Adrien's voice was raw with honesty. You terrify me, Maya Okafor. Because for the first time in 8 years, I'm willing to take the risk. The air in the limousine crackled with tension. Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of a precipice, about to take a leap that would change everything. Adrien, she whispered. Yes? I'm scared too. After David, after Sarah. I don't know if I can trust my own judgment anymore. Then don't trust your judgment, Adrien said, leaning closer to her. Trust me. The limousine pulled to a stop outside the restaurant, and the moment was broken by the driver opening their door. But as Adrien helped Maya out of the car, his hand lingered on hers, warm and reassuring. The restaurant was everything Maya had expected: intimate lighting, expensive art on the walls, and the kind of hushed atmosphere that suggested conversations worth millions of dollars took place here regularly. The maitre d' recognized Adrien immediately and led them to a private table in an alcove that offered both intimacy and a view of the city lights. Mr. Blackwood, the waiter, appeared the moment they were seated. The usual? Please, Adrien nodded. And bring us your finest bottle of champagne. We're celebrating. As the waiter disappeared, Maya looked around the restaurant with curiosity. You come here often? It's convenient for business dinners. Private, discreet, and the food is exceptional. Adrien leaned back in his chair, studying her face. But I've never brought anyone here for personal reasons before. Is that what this is? Personal? Adrien's smile was slow and devastating. Maya, everything about you is personal. The champagne arrived, and Adrien raised his glass in a toast. To new beginnings, he said, echoing her words from the night before. To taking risks, Maya countered, meeting his gaze directly. They drank, and Maya felt the champagne warm her from the inside out. Or maybe it was the way Adrien was looking at her, like she was the most fascinating woman he'd ever met. Tell me something, Adrien said as their appetizers arrived. Before David, before the modeling career, who was Maya Okafor when she was just a girl with dreams? Maya smiled, surprised by the question. She was a girl who read too many fairy tales and believed that hard work could make any dream come true. She wanted to travel the world, see beautiful places, maybe fall in love with a handsome prince who would love her exactly as she was. And did she? Fall in love with her prince? Maya's expression grew serious. She thought she did. But it turned out he was more interested in the crown than the princess. Adrien reached across the table and covered her hand with his. His loss. Was it? Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe David needed someone more sophisticated, more connected to his world. Maybe I was just. Maya struggled for the words. Maybe you were too good for him, Adrien said firmly. Maya, I've spent 2 days watching you work. I've seen your intelligence, your grace, your strength. Any man who would trade that for social connections and superficial charm is an idiot who doesn't deserve you. The conviction in his voice made Maya's chest tight with emotion. You barely know me. I know enough. Adrien's thumb traced across her knuckles, sending shivers up her arm. I know you're brave enough to start over when your world falls apart. I know you're smart enough to master complex financial concepts in a matter of hours. I know you're strong enough to face down a room full of hostile negotiators without flinching. And? Adrien's eyes locked with hers. And I know that when you smile, really smile, not the polite professional smile but the real one, it's like the sun coming out after a storm. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. No one had ever described her that way before, not even David in their most romantic moments. Adrien. I know this is fast, he said, seeming to read her thoughts. I know we're both carrying baggage from people who hurt us. But Maya, I can't pretend that what I feel for you is purely professional. What do you feel for me? Maya asked softly. Adrien was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 8 years, and you're the first person who's made me want to breathe again. The honesty in his voice nearly undid her. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of hope, of something that felt dangerously like falling. I feel the same way, she whispered. Terrified, but alive. More alive than I've felt in years. Adrien's smile was brilliant. He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her palm, and Maya felt the touch like an electric shock straight to her heart.